Hello, welcome to our Heritage Works. Today we are making Wendy's style chili. Let's get started by chopping up some vegetables. This is a half cup measuring cup, and I'm just doing a rough measurement on my vegetables today. The ingredients we'll be using today are 2 pounds of ground beef, a half cup of chopped onion, a half cup of chopped celery. I have a little more than what the recipe calls for, but this should be a 1/4 cup of chopped bell pepper. We have 1 quart of tomato juice. I am using my own home canned, but you can use just a can from the store, that's fine. This is 28 ounces of tomato puree. Again, this is home canned, and I have just a little over the 28 ounces, but it's going to be close enough. We have 15-ounce can of pinto beans and a 15-ounce can of kidney beans. Both have been drained, rinsed, and then re-drained. From there we have a 1/4 cup of chili powder. This is my own homemade chili powder. You can watch my video on how to make that. This is a 1½ teaspoons of garlic powder. Again, I've made that myself. Then we have a 1/2 teaspoon of oregano, 1/2 teaspoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of cumin, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. You can use any pepper, hot pepper that you like. If you like it extra spicy, you could certainly add more. If you can't tolerate any spice at all, you can omit the cayenne pepper. The first step in this process is going to be brown the ground beef. Today we're going to use a Dutch oven. You can use any heavy bottom pot that you have. And I'm just going to pour the meat in once this gets warm, and I'm going to brown it on all sides. This will take a few minutes. I'm actually using the cheapest ground beef I could find. It's gotten so expensive, and since the chili is a really hearty variety that uses a lot of meat, I decided to just simply use the cheapest I could find. It'll work. You don't need any expensive meats for this. In fact, what happens at Wendy's is if they have a hamburger that falls apart or isn't quite right in shape, they'll go ahead and cook it, and then they'll throw it right into their chili pot. Now, you can see this is mostly browned through. It's just slightly pink in places. I'm going to give this just a couple of more minutes, and then I'm going to take a slotted spoon and remove all this meat, but I'm going to leave all of the fat and stuff that is being left behind. I'm going to use that for sauteing our vegetables. Since I'm using a cheaper meat, there's a little extra fat in here, a little more liquid than what I would like to have. So I'm going to grab a paper towel and just take out some of the grease. And all I'm doing is letting this soak up some. I just don't need it all. That's looking better. In go our onions and our celery. I'm going to give that a quick stir. And we want to cook these vegetables until they are right on the edge of translucent. What we want is just a little bit of crunch still on them, but we want them to be soft at the same time and fully cooked. So we'll give this just a minute or two. And as you can see, because of this Dutch oven holding the heat so well, these are sauteing nicely. I wish you could smell it in here because this is smelling so amazing. But as you can see, the onions are starting to get a little bit translucent, not much yet. We're going to keep going with this. So do you hear that wonderful sound? I love hearing vegetables sizzle like that. Again, we're just trying to get these to soften up and be mostly cooked. And if you notice, the meat was almost completely cooked. There was just a slight bit of pink to it. That's fine. It's going to finish cooking when we put it back in. And if anyone's wondering, I did use a clean bowl to put the cooked meat back into. I did not use the same bowl that I had the raw meat in. You don't want to do that cross-contamination thing. So even though the bowls look the same, they are two completely separate bowls. You want to make sure you're practicing safety first in the kitchen. Speaking of safety, you'll notice I'm not grabbing the handles, and I also have this portable silicone. It can be found in your kitchen section with the cast iron, and it allows you to put it on and off easily to keep you from burning your fingers. Since this is a cast iron Dutch oven that's been enameled, the whole thing is hot, including the handles, and you want to be careful that you don't burn yourself. So you may be wondering, how did I choose this size of dice on my vegetables? Well, we don't like a lot of big mouthfuls of the vegetables. We want it to kind of hide in the chili. We want it to be small enough that we can eat it without having to do a lot of chewing, but we don't want it so small that they disintegrate. And this is looking really good, really close to what we're looking for. You can see that all of this onions and stuff are mostly translucent. The peppers and celery are doing the same thing. I think we can go ahead and add the rest of our ingredients. Okay. That looks really good. So I'm going to start and add all the herbs and spices, quickly followed by the liquid. What I want to do is give this a chance to just start to get fragrance, and we're going to get it really married with those vegetables. So I'm just pouring them all in. I'm going to give this a nice stir. And again, I'm just trying to get them going. About 15-20 seconds, and I can start smelling it now. We've got a wonderful bouquet. It's time to pour this in. Listen to that sizzle. Give this a quick stir just so that it can start deglazing and getting everything coming up to temperature again. Go ahead and add in our puree. This one I'm going to use the spatula. Get all that goodness in there. Don't want to miss anything. We can add our beans. And we can give it a stir. It's already starting to look a lot like the Wendy's chili that we're familiar with. Now, do I know if this is the exact recipe that they use? No. But I'm looking for what's going to get me close to that taste, and without all the sodium and that type of stuff that we would get from a commercial kitchen. We want to make sure that ours is nice and healthy. Again, I'm using my own canned vegetables. I know what's in it. If you have freeze-dried vegetables, you could certainly do the onion, the bell pepper, and celery freeze-dried or dehydrated. Just rehydrate them. Make sure they're not sopping, but you get most of the moisture out, and then saute those. What we're going to try to do now is bring this up to a boil, get it nice and hot and going, and then we will add back in the meat and let it simmer for a few minutes before we call it good. Okay, I can hear the chili starting to sizzle. Means it's starting to get warm. I'm seeing just a little bit of steam coming off. And this is getting close to what we want. We want it to get just a little bit warmer before we add in our meat. As a tip, while this is coming up to temperature, it's a great time to go ahead and clean up your kitchen and any dishes that you've already used and start setting things up for serving. You might want to add sour cream, hot sauce to this when you go to serve it. I know some people that like different kinds of cheeses in it. That's up to you, however you like your chili. Once you try it, maybe you'll want to add a touch of liquid smoke. There is a gluten-free version of that available. And all I'm doing is just trying to make sure it doesn't stick and that everything's heating up evenly. Let's give it a few more minutes. I think I'll put the lid on just to help it out a little. It's been a couple minutes. Let's take a look. Oh yeah. As you can see, we're getting nice little bubbles around the entire area. Got nice steam coming off. Give it a stir. Nothing's sticking, which is good. I think at this point we can add the meat back in. And then we can let that come back up to temperature. If you want, while your meat is resting, you could drain it if you have a really high fat content that you're trying to avoid. But once it's cooked, you could put it in a strainer while it's waiting to go back in. And this is looking really, really good. The smell is incredible. It's looking and smelling a whole lot like Wendy's chili. while we're waiting for this to come back up to temperature, since we've added the meat, I wanted to thank everyone that has recently joined the channel. We've had several people come over and join us. Probably got a few of the folks that follow Jilly G. She and I do a lot of talking together about different dishes. She's a really great lady, and I appreciate her cooking and her knowledge and how much she shares with me. And we've done a few collaborations. If you haven't seen those, check out the playlists. We've done a few of them. And if you haven't checked out Jilly G as well, go over to her channel and join her. She does a lot better on baking than I do. I've got a few things, but she does a better job. But thank you for joining us. Go ahead, if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's free. Turn on that notification bell so that you're notified every time that we put out a new video. Now, if you're here for cooking only, then you're going to be disappointed. But I do other items as well. I do some general maintenance type of things, and things that you might need to do around like a homestead or something like that. And this is looking good. But thank you for joining us, and I hope that you'll continue to support us by liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing. That all helps us get out there and helps the channel grow. I'm going to let this simmer for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then it'll be ready to serve. This is looking pretty good. I did turn the burner down just a little bit because it's getting a little too aggressive, but it's looking beautiful. And at this point, our goal is just to heat it through. The longer you let it set, the better it's going to taste. But I'm going to dip some up now, and let's see how it looks. Look at all that goodness that's in there. Doesn't that just make you want to have some?